The clock struck 3 p.m. when Officer Reynolds brushed past the little German Shepherd puppy, her desperate whines echoing through the empty park. Minutes later, he received a frantic call. A child was missing just 2 blocks away. As the puppy, named Bella, continued to cry, a chilling realization hit him. She was the only one who knew where the boy was hidden. With just 15 minutes to spare, he turned back, but it was too late. A heart-wrenching silence hung in the air. The bond between them was more than just man and dog. It was a lifeline. My name is Lily. This is how hope can vanish in an instant. The silence that surrounded us felt heavier than any weight I had ever encountered. I stood there, my heart racing as I took in the scene. The empty street, the trees swaying gently in the evening breeze, and Bella, the puppy, who seemed to sense the despair hanging in the air. My father, David, had rushed back. But the realization that he might have been too late loomed over us like a storm cloud. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the determination to protect, to save, clashing with an overwhelming sense of helplessness. As I watched him kneel beside Bella, his large hands cradling her fragile frame, I felt a surge of emotion welling up within me. I knew that Bella's cries had come from a place of desperation, a deep-seated fear that perhaps no one would come for her. It was as if she understood that the connection we had formed in such a short time was something truly special. My heart ached for her, and I couldn't help but think of how she must have felt before we found her. A world of loneliness surrounded by shadows, waiting for someone to bring her back into the light. "Come on, Bella," I whispered softly, reaching out to stroke her fur. She looked up at me with those big, soulful eyes, and I felt an electric spark of understanding pass between us. It was a promise that I would do everything I could to help her, no matter the cost. David glanced at me, his expression shifting as he read the determination etched on my face. I could tell he was wrestling with the enormity of the situation, but deep down, I hoped he could feel the same connection I had with Bella. "What are we going to do now, Dad?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The urgency in my question hung in the air, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. He was a protector, but he was also my father, and I knew he wouldn't shy away from doing the right thing. He straightened, a new resolve forming in his eyes. "I think we need to find out where she came from," he replied, a hint of determination breaking through his earlier uncertainty. His instincts kicked in, and I felt a swell of pride to have such a brave father. "I'll contact animal control, but I also want to investigate this further. We can't just leave her here without knowing what happened." As he spoke, I could see the gears of his mind clicking into place, trying to piece together the mystery surrounding Bella. I nodded, feeling a sense of purpose rising within me. Together, we could uncover her past, and perhaps we could help her find her way home. Minutes later, my father was on the phone, relaying information to the dispatcher. I sat cross-legged next to Bella, whispering soothing words to her as I stroked her soft coat. She leaned into me, her body relaxing slightly as if she finally felt safe. The sound of my father's voice faded into the background, and I lost myself in the moment, imagining a life where Bella wasn't just a lost puppy, but a part of our family. After a few minutes, David hung up and turned to me. "Animal control will be here shortly, but I think we should try to find out where Bella came from. There might be someone looking for her." His eyes held a mix of concern and determination, and I could see that he understood the gravity of the situation. "Do you think she was abandoned?" I asked, my heart sinking at the thought. The idea of anyone leaving Bella behind felt unbearable, and I couldn't fathom how someone could do that to such a sweet creature. "It's possible," David replied, his voice steady. "But we need to keep an open mind. Let's check the area and see if we can find any clues that might lead us to her owner." His words ignited a spark of hope within me, and I sprang to my feet, eager to help. Together we walked down the quiet street, Bella by our side, her tail wagging tentatively as she adjusted to the safety of our presence. I felt as if we were embarking on a quest, an adventure to uncover the truth. My heart raced with anticipation. Maybe Bella's journey could lead to something beautiful, something that could bring my family even closer. We combed through the neighborhood, stopping at houses to ask if anyone recognized Bella. Each door we knocked on was met with sympathetic smiles, but no one seemed to have any information. I could see David's brow furrow deeper with each disappointment. I wanted to reassure him, to tell him that we'd find her family, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. "Let's try the park," I suggested, after what felt like hours of searching. "People take their dogs there all the time. Someone might know her." David nodded, appreciating my enthusiasm. As we arrived at the park, the air was filled with laughter and the sound of children playing. I scanned the crowd, searching for anyone who might recognize Bella. She seemed to sense the shift in energy and began to bounce happily, her spirit lifting as she caught the attention of those around us. "Look at her!" I exclaimed, my heart swelling at the sight of Bella's joyful demeanor. "She's so happy to be out here." David chuckled softly, his earlier worries momentarily forgotten as he watched Bella interact with the environment. The people passing by stopped to admire her, some kneeling down to pet her, and in that moment, I realized that Bella was more than just a lost puppy. She was a beacon of light, drawing people together, even if only for a fleeting moment. Our search continued, and just as we were about to leave the park, a woman approached us, her eyes wide with recognition. "Is that Bella?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. David and I exchanged a hopeful glance as I felt a rush of adrenaline. This could be the moment we had been waiting for. "Yes, do you know her?" I asked, stepping forward, my heart racing with anticipation. The woman nodded, tears brimming in her eyes as she crouched down to Bella's level. "I've been looking everywhere for her. I thought I lost her forever." In that instant, I realized that the journey wasn't just about finding Bella's home. It was about the connections we make and the compassion we show along the way. David smiled at me, and in that moment, I understood that our hearts had expanded, and we were forever changed by Bella's presence in our lives. As I looked at Bella, her eyes sparkling with hope and relief, I could feel a warmth spreading in my chest. The little German Shepherd had been through so much, yet here she was, wagging her tail and looking at me as if I was her hero. I had never felt this kind of connection with an animal before. It wasn't just about rescuing her, it was about understanding her pain and joy, about embracing the love she had to offer. My father, David, knelt beside us, scratching Bella behind her ears, and I could see the change in him too. The weight he had carried seemed to lift slightly, replaced by a hint of joy as he bonded with the puppy. "Do you think we can help her find her family?" I asked, my voice filled with determination. Bella nudged my hand, and I smiled down at her. David took a deep breath, looking up from Bella to meet my gaze, and I could tell he was contemplating the situation. His job often kept him busy, and the harsh realities of the world sometimes made it hard for him to see the silver linings. But in that moment, I saw a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "I think we can," he finally replied, his voice steady yet soft. "But we'll need to start by finding out if anyone has reported her missing." I nodded enthusiastically, my mind racing with possibilities. I imagined Bella being reunited with her family, the joy and relief on their faces when they saw her again. It was a vision I wanted to make a reality. As we began our search, David decided to take us to the local animal shelter. The building was a little run down, but the people there had big hearts. They were dedicated to helping lost pets and finding them loving homes. I hoped that they might have some information about Bella's family. The moment we stepped inside, the smell of cleaning supplies mixed with the faint scent of fur welcomed us. A kind woman named Mrs. Jenkins approached us, her eyes lighting up when she saw Bella. "Oh my, what a lovely girl you have there," she exclaimed, kneeling down to Bella's level. The puppy wagged her tail vigorously, and I felt a swell of pride. "Do you know her name? Is she yours?" I felt a little shy, but managed to explain Bella's story, the way I found her, her cries for help, and our determination to find her family. Mrs. Jenkins listened intently, nodding along as I spoke. After I finished, she smiled gently and offered to help us. "Let's start by checking our database for any missing dog reports," she suggested. David and I watched as she typed away on a computer, her brow furrowed in concentration. With every click of the keyboard, my heart raced a little faster, filled with hope that we would find Bella's family soon. Mrs. Jenkins turned to us with a look of concern. "I'm sorry, but there are no reports for a dog matching her description," she said softly. My heart sank. Bella deserved to be with her family, to be loved and cared for. I could see that David was feeling the weight of the news too, his shoulders visibly tensing. "But," Mrs. Jenkins continued, "I recommend putting up flyers around the neighborhood. Sometimes people see them and recognize their pets. We can help you with that." I felt a spark of determination reignite within me. "Yes, let's do that," I exclaimed, my spirits lifting. David smiled at me, and I could tell he appreciated my optimism. We spent the next hour making colorful flyers with Bella's picture and a description of her. Each time I wrote her name, I felt a deeper connection to her. It felt more like a promise to help her find her home. Once the flyers were ready, David and I set out together, Bella happily trotting alongside us. I took charge, hanging the flyers on telephone poles and in local shops. My father helped by talking to people we encountered. "Have you seen this puppy?" he would ask, showing the flyer to passersby. With every person we spoke to, I felt a growing sense of community, an unspoken bond forming between us as we all worked together to help Bella. As dusk began to settle in, we made our way back home, tired yet hopeful. I glanced down at Bella, who was now curled up against my leg, resting peacefully. I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how far we had come in such a short time. David turned to me, a soft smile on his face. "I'm proud of you, Lily. You didn't give up on her." His words filled me with warmth, and I realized how important it was to show compassion, not just to Bella, but to everyone around us. "Thank you, Dad. I just want her to be happy," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As we reached home, Sarah was waiting for us at the door, her eyes lighting up when she saw Bella. "Oh, you found her!" she exclaimed, kneeling to pet the puppy. I watched as Bella licked Sarah's hand, and I felt a pang of joy surge through me. In that moment, I understood that love could unite us all, no matter how lost we may feel. After dinner, we gathered in the living room, Bella resting at my feet. David suggested we take turns sharing stories of our own pets growing up, and as the laughter filled the room, I felt a warmth that wrapped around us like a cozy blanket. Each story echoed a love for animals, a reminder of how they touch our lives in the most unexpected ways. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the thought of Bella's family and how desperately they must be searching for her. "What if we don't find them?" I asked, my voice trembling. David looked at me thoughtfully. "Sometimes it takes time and patience, but we'll keep trying, and if it comes to it, Bella has a home with us too." His words brought a sense of comfort. I knew that whatever happened, we would face it together, a family bound by love and a little puppy who had found her way into our hearts. With renewed determination, I vowed to keep searching, not just for Bella's family, but for ways to help others in need. I understood then that our journey was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead us next. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more heartfelt adventures and tales of compassion. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over our neighborhood, I sat on the porch with Bella nestled beside me. The puppy, who seemed to have transformed from a trembling bundle of fur into a little whirlwind of joy, wagged her tail vigorously as she chased after leaves fluttering in the evening breeze. Watching her play, I felt a sense of comfort that I hadn't realized I was missing. It was as if her laughter, albeit silent, was a balm for my heart. David returned home from work later that night, the weight of the world evident on his shoulders. I knew he had been thinking about Bella's situation, about her lost family and the hardships they must have faced. When he stepped inside, I rushed to him with Bella at my side, her bright eyes shining with innocence and hope.
"Dad, look at her!" I exclaimed, my excitement spilling over. I wanted him to see the joy that had blossomed since Bella arrived, how she had woven herself into the fabric of our family in such a short time. David knelt to meet Bella's gaze, his expression softening as she nudged his hand with her snout. "She's quite the little character, isn't she?" he murmured, a hint of a smile breaking through his usual seriousness. Yet I could sense a lingering shadow in his eyes, a reminder of the responsibility he felt towards the puppy and her missing family. "Can we keep her, Dad?" My voice trembled slightly, not out of doubt, but with the fervor of hope. Bella paused her play, looking between David and me, as if she understood the weight of our decision. I held my breath, awaiting his answer. David sighed, rubbing the back of his neck as he stood up. "Lily, it's not just about wanting her to stay.
We have to find out what happened to her. Someone must be missing her terribly." His voice was gentle but firm, and I appreciated that he was considering all angles. I nodded, understanding the importance of resolving Bella's past before cementing her future with us. In the following days, David took it upon himself to investigate. He visited local shelters, posted flyers around our neighborhood, and reached out to his fellow officers for any leads. Meanwhile, Sarah and I took care of Bella, nurturing her and showering her with love. She became part of our daily routines, and slowly, the ache of her uncertain past began to fade, replaced by the warmth of our growing bond. One afternoon, as I brushed Bella's shiny coat, I noticed a small scar along her side. It was a jagged reminder of something painful, and I felt a pang of sorrow at the thought that her life hadn't always been filled with kindness. My heart ached for her, and I wished she could tell us her story. "You're safe now."
"Bella," I whispered, stroking her fur gently, "we'll figure this out together." Days turned into weeks, but news of Bella's family remained elusive. David's determination never wavered, yet I could see the worry etched into his brow. He shared stories with Sarah at night about how hard it was to find the owners, and I listened, my heart heavy with empathy for everyone involved. It was a complicated situation, one that tugged at all of us. Just as I was beginning to lose hope, a breakthrough arrived unexpectedly. One evening, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard David talking on the phone in a hushed tone. His voice was filled with urgency and excitement. I tiptoed closer, straining to catch every word. "Yes, she has a small scar. We found her abandoned. What do you mean you're coming over?" My heart raced as I realized someone was coming to see Bella, perhaps her owner. David hung up and walked into the living room where I was waiting. "Lily, we might have found Bella's family," he said, his eyes sparkling with cautious hope. "They're on their way to meet us." Nervous energy surged through me as I glanced at Bella, who was blissfully unaware of the impending reunion. Would they recognize her? Would she remember them? My mind raced with questions, both excited and anxious. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts, and my heart leaped as David opened it to reveal a couple. Their faces were drawn with worry, but lit up with joy when they laid eyes on Bella. I watched as they knelt and called her name, their voices trembling with emotion. Bella's ears perked up, and she hesitated for a moment, confusion evident in her gaze. But then, in a flurry of movement, she bounded towards them, tail wagging wildly. I felt a mixture of happiness and sadness as I witnessed the reunion unfold. The couple embraced Bella, their tears falling as they showered her with affection, their relief palpable. As I stood back, watching the scene, I realized how much Bella had changed our lives in such a short time. She had brought our family closer together, teaching us lessons of love, compassion, and the importance of kindness. I felt David's hand on my shoulder, and I turned to see a proud smile on his face. "You did a good job, Lily," he said softly. But as the couple turned to thank us, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was not the end of our journey, but merely a new beginning. Bella had sparked a fire in me, a desire to help not just animals in need, but also people who were lost.
I knew that I wanted to make a difference in the world, just as David did every day in his job. With newfound determination, I stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Bella's story was no longer just her own. It had intertwined with ours, and I was eager to see how our paths would continue to cross in the future. Love, after all, has a way of connecting us all, no matter how lost we may feel. As I knelt beside Bella, the puppy's big brown eyes looked up at me with a mixture of fear and hope. I could feel my heart racing, a surge of affection welling up inside me. It was clear that this little creature had been through so much, and I couldn't help but wonder what had brought her to this moment. Maybe her family had abandoned her, or perhaps they had lost her during a chaotic moment. The thought filled me with sadness, but it also ignited a spark of determination within me. I knew I had to help her, and I was certain that David would understand. "Dad, we have to bring her home," I insisted, my voice trembling with urgency. "She needs us, and I can't just leave her here." My plea hung in the air, and I could see David's expression soften as he looked at the puppy. His brows furrowed in thought, and for a moment I wondered if he would still refuse. But then I remembered the stories he often told me about compassion, about how every life was valuable, no matter how small. This puppy deserved that compassion too. "Okay, Lily," David finally said, kneeling next to me. "Let's see if we can help her out, but we need to be careful." He reached out a hand toward Bella, who sniffed cautiously at his fingers. I held my breath, hoping she would feel the warmth and kindness in him. When Bella stepped forward and gently licked his palm, I felt a surge of relief. It seemed she sensed that we were there to help her, not to harm her. My father then pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts. I watched closely, curiosity bubbling in my chest. "I'll call animal control," he said, and I nodded, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I wanted to be grateful that he was taking action, but part of me wished I could just take Bella home right then and there. As David spoke with the operator, I sat close to Bella, running my fingers through her soft fur. She leaned into me, and I could feel the bond forming between us. In that moment, it was as if the rest of the world had faded away, and it was just the two of us, finding solace in one another. Bella let out a soft whimper, and I instinctively wrapped my arms around her, whispering soothing words. "You're safe now. We're going to help you." When David hung up, he looked at me, a hint of a smile breaking across his face. "They'll be here in about 20 minutes, he said. "In the meantime, let's see if we can make her feel more comfortable." I nodded enthusiastically, feeling a surge of hope. My heart raced with excitement at the thought of being able to help Bella right away. We found an old blanket in the trunk of the police car, and I draped it over Bella, who seemed to appreciate the warmth. I glanced up at David, whose expression was still serious, but there was a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "You have a good heart, Lily," he said. "Not everyone would stop to help like you did." My cheeks flushed with warmth at his praise. I knew that my actions were just the beginning of a long journey. With the blanket wrapped around Bella, I thought about her past. I imagined what it must have been like for her to once have a family who loved her, only to end up alone and scared. That thought made my heart ache, but it also fueled my determination to find her a new home, one where she would be safe and loved. In those fleeting moments, I realized that I wasn't just rescuing a puppy, I was helping to mend the broken pieces of her life, and in doing so, I was learning something vital about empathy and kindness. When animal control arrived, a friendly woman stepped out of the van and approached us. She knelt down to Bella's level, her voice gentle as she spoke. "Hey there, little girl, you're going to be okay." I could see Bella respond to the warmth in her tone, her tail wagging tentatively. As the woman assessed Bella's condition, David and I exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the weight of the moment. This was not just a transaction, it was a promise of a better future for the puppy who had captured our hearts. The woman checked Bella for a collar or microchip, but there was nothing. "It looks like she's been on her own for a while," she said, her voice tinged with concern.
My heart sank at the thought of Bella being lost and alone, but I quickly reminded myself that she was now in good hands. We'll take her to the shelter where she can receive care and hopefully find a new home. As she spoke, I felt a lump form in my throat. A shelter might be a good place for her, but I longed to know that Bella would find a loving family soon. Before they took Bella away, I leaned down and whispered into her ear, "I won't forget you. I promise I'll come to visit." Bella looked up at me, her eyes filled with a flicker of understanding. I could see that she felt the connection too, and my heart swelled with the love I already had for her. As the van pulled away, I felt a sense of emptiness wash over me. I turned to David, who wrapped an arm around my shoulders, giving me comfort in this moment of uncertainty. "You did a wonderful thing today, Lily. Bella is going to be okay because of you." I felt his words wrap around me like a warm blanket, easing the sadness I felt inside. "I just hope she finds a family soon," I replied, looking out at the road where Bella had disappeared. "She deserves that." David nodded, his eyes reflecting a shared understanding of what it meant to care deeply for others. It was a lesson that would stay with me, one that reminded me that compassion could shine brightly even in the darkest of times. As the days passed, Bella's absence weighed heavily on my heart, like a missing puzzle piece I couldn't seem to replace. Each morning, I would rush to the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, imagining that somehow she might return to our lives. The familiar sounds of the neighborhood were comforting yet bittersweet, a reminder of the short time we had spent together. I often thought back to the moments we shared, her tiny paws resting on my lap as she gazed up at me with those big, soulful eyes. There was a connection between us that felt almost magical, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something more. One afternoon, as I sat on the porch, I noticed David pulling into the driveway. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped as he stepped out of the car, and I immediately sensed that something was bothering him. I ran to him, eager to hear about his day. "Dad, how was work?" I asked, trying to lift his spirits with my enthusiasm. He managed a small smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "It was long, Lily, just one of those days where nothing seems to go right," he replied, ruffling my hair absent-mindedly. I watched him closely, noticing the way he sighed as he leaned against the doorframe. It was then that I understood. His work as a police officer was more than just a job. It was a burden he carried every day. I wanted to help him, to show him that even in difficult times, there was still hope. Maybe I could encourage him to talk about Bella. "Do you remember that puppy we found, Bella?" I asked, gauging his reaction. David's expression softened a bit, but I could still see the weight of the world on him. "I think about her all the time. I really hope she's okay," I continued, my voice trembling with emotion. "She was just so scared and alone. It breaks my heart." David paused, his gaze distant, as if he were lost in thought. "You know, Lily, sometimes life throws difficult challenges at us, and it's hard to understand why things happen the way they do," he said slowly, the heaviness of his words sinking in. "But it's our job to be there for those who can't stand up for themselves, to protect them." "I want to help, Dad," I declared, feeling a surge of determination. "What if we went to the shelter? Maybe Bella is there, waiting for us." The moment I said it, hope ignited within me like a spark, and I could see a flicker of something similar in David's eyes. "Let's do it, Lily," he said, straightening up. "I think that's a great idea." My heart raced at the thought of seeing Bella again, of bringing her back into our lives where she belonged. The prospect of reuniting with her filled me with excitement and anticipation. The next day, we made our way to the shelter, my hands trembling with nervous energy. As we entered, the sounds of barking and the smell of dogs surrounded us, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I felt a surge of joy and sorrow, remembering the countless animals waiting for their forever homes, each with its own story to tell. David walked beside me, his presence grounding me as we ventured deeper into the building. After talking to a kind staff member, we were shown to the area where the dogs were housed.
My heart raced as I scanned the faces of the dogs. Each wagging tail and hopeful gaze tugged at my heartstrings. I wondered if Bella would recognize me, if she would leap into my arms as she had before. Then, amid the flurry of fur and excitement, I saw her, a familiar coat, her distinctive markings standing out amongst the crowd. Bella! My breath caught in my throat, and I rushed towards her, my heart pounding. She turned her head, her big eyes widening in recognition, and before I knew it, she was bounding towards me, barking with joy. The world around us faded as I knelt down and she leaped into my arms, her warmth enveloping me like a beloved blanket. "Dad, she remembers me!" I exclaimed, tears of happiness streaming down my cheeks as I hugged Bella tightly. David chuckled softly, a genuine smile breaking through the weariness that had lingered for days. "Looks like you have a little fan club," he teased, and I couldn't help but laugh, my heart swelling with gratitude. After filling out the necessary paperwork and promising to give Bella the love she deserved, we finally brought her home. The moment we stepped into our house, it felt different, fuller, warmer, and bursting with life. Bella ran through each room, sniffing curiously, her tail wagging furiously as she explored. I watched her with delight, feeling an overwhelming sense of joy that she was finally home where she belonged. That evening, as I lay in bed with Bella snuggled close to me, I reflected on everything that had happened. David had shared his worries with me, and I felt more connected to him than ever. I understood now that the burdens he carried didn't just belong to him. They were part of our family's journey together. It was our compassion for others that would help us through tough times, bringing us closer and helping us heal. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that love and forgiveness had the power to mend broken hearts. Bella's gentle breathing beside me reassured me that we would face whatever challenges came our way together. And as I closed my eyes, I made a silent promise to always be a voice for the voiceless, to never turn my back on those in need, just as my father had taught me. If you have stories of love, compassion, or even moments of kindness, I encourage you to share them. Together, we can inspire each other to make a difference. The next morning, as the sun's golden rays filtered through my window, illuminating the room with warmth, I awoke with a sense of purpose. I glanced at the puppy, now curled up at the foot of my bed, her once gaunt frame appearing a bit healthier after a night of rest and a warm meal. I felt a pang of joy and responsibility wash over me, a mix of affection and determination. Today would not be just another day, it would be a day of action. I tiptoed past my parents' room, careful not to wake them, and made my way to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. While I spread peanut butter on toast, I could hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of the puppy, who I had named Bella. The name felt fitting, it meant beautiful, and every time I looked at her, I saw a little spark of hope. After breakfast, I gently tugged on my father's sleeve, urging him to wake. "Dad, I want to take Bella for a walk," I said, excitement bubbling in my voice. He stirred, blinking sleepily, but there was a softness in his gaze as he looked at Bella, who had already begun to wag her tail. "All right, but let's make it quick," he replied, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. I could tell he still carried the weight of yesterday's discoveries, but I believed that time spent with Bella would lift his spirits. With Bella on a leash, we stepped outside into the fresh morning air. The sun was brighter than I remembered, as if the world was awakening along with us. I felt a sense of freedom as Bella bounded ahead, her tail wagging furiously, radiating pure joy. My father walked beside me, and though he remained quiet, I could see him observing Bella, his heart slowly softening. We ventured to the park, a place filled with memories of laughter and play. Bella, with her newfound energy, chased after fallen leaves, her playfulness contagious. I laughed and called her back, feeling a warmth in my chest that reminded me of the power of companionship. As we walked, I couldn't help but bring up what we had learned about Bella's past. "Dad, what if we try to find her family? Maybe they're still looking for her," I suggested, my mind racing with possibilities. David looked thoughtful. the lines on his forehead deepening as he considered my words. "It's complicated, Lily. Sometimes people lose their pets for reasons we can't understand," he replied, glancing down at Bella, who was now sniffing curiously at a patch of grass. "But if they loved her, wouldn't they want her back?" I pressed, my heart swelling with hope. "And if they lost her, maybe they need closure." David sighed, clearly torn. "You're right, sweetheart, but we have to be careful. If Bella was abandoned, it might have been for a good reason. We don't want to open old wounds." I nodded, understanding the weight of his words, yet feeling an unwavering determination to help. Together, we made a pact to look for Bella's family while protecting her from any potential harm. Over the next few days, our routine became centered around Bella. We printed flyers with her picture and details, distributing them around the neighborhood, and I watched my father's resolve grow stronger each day. With every flyer we handed out, he shared Bella's story with neighbors and friends, and I could see the spark of purpose igniting within him again. My mother, Sarah, joined in the search, her nurturing spirit bringing warmth and encouragement to our little mission. As a family, we became united in our determination, and the bond between us deepened with every passing moment. One afternoon, while we were out distributing flyers, we met an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson who lived a few blocks away. She took one look at Bella and gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "Oh my, that's Lucy! I lost her last month when she ran away." The world around us seemed to freeze as the truth sank in. Bella was not just a puppy in need, she was someone's beloved pet, and now a reunion was within reach. Mrs. Thompson explained that Lucy had been her companion for years, a source of comfort through many hardships. As Mrs. Thompson knelt down and called Bella, I felt my heart race. Bella hesitated for a moment, then bounded toward her, tail wagging furiously. The two were enveloped in an embrace, a moment filled with pure joy and relief. Watching them, I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions. I was happy for Mrs. Thompson, but I also felt a twinge of sadness at the thought of losing Bella. David placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, sensing my inner turmoil. "Lily, sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but it's what makes us grow," he said softly. As I watched Bella licking Mrs. Thompson's face, I realized that love could manifest in many forms. Bella had brought so much healing to our family, but she belonged with someone who had loved her first. After the joyful reunion, Mrs. Thompson turned to us, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "I can't thank you enough for finding her. She means everything to me." I smiled, knowing that our efforts had led to this beautiful moment. In the days that followed, my family began to heal from our own wounds. We had faced our fears, and through it all, compassion had shown us the way. My father, once burdened with guilt, now found solace in knowing he had done something good. As summer turned to fall, the air grew crisp, and the leaves painted the ground in shades of gold and red. Bella, now Lucy, had found her way home, but our hearts had opened to new possibilities. I looked forward to the adventures that awaited us, knowing that love and compassion could guide us in our journey. The lessons learned would stay with us forever, reminding me that every story, no matter how small, has the power to change lives. We were a family that learned to heal together, and I would carry that lesson in my heart always.